An advanced subscription agreement, an ASA, can help you raise funds quickly for your startup in the UK. But all the terminology can be really confusing. I'll take you through what you need to know and the challenges of using one. In a typical fundraise, when investors transfer their money to a startup, they know exactly how many shares they're getting, the valuation of the company, and will get their shares almost immediately. However, under an ASA, an investor transfers their money to a startup and they only receive their shares in the company when the startup closes an investment round and the valuation is set. The ASA investor receives a discount on their shares for investing early and taking on additional risk. Importantly, ASAs are compliant with SEIS, EIS tax reliefs, allowing investors to claim up to 50% of their investment against their tax bill. Under an ASA, startups receive investor funds upfront, and these funds convert to equity on any of these triggers. You raise your target amount, which is called the qualifying funding round. If you reach a long stop date, and this is a period of up to 12 months from the date of when the investor signs the ASA, and then on this date, the investment converts to equity. If your investors want SEIS, EIS tax relief, this date should not be more than 6 months from the date of signing. And lastly, if you sell your company, when you draft your ASA, you'll need to decide on the discount, which is between 10 to 30%, and most commonly, it's about 20%. You'll also need to decide the valuation floor or the default valuation. In the event that you don't raise your qualifying amount by the long stop date, the ASA funds will convert to equity at the valuation floor on the long stop date. The valuation is likely something that you'll negotiate with your investors. Let's run through a few scenarios. Sarah's been raising for a few months now, meeting with VCs and angels, and she wants to raise 1 million at a £4 million valuation. She has an angel who's interested in investing £100,000, and Sarah's interested in accessing this to extend her company's runway. But Sarah knows she'll need much more than this to fund her company for the next 18 to 24 months, and it's a bit risky for her to set the valuation of her company with this relatively small amount, just in case a larger funder or funders try to renegotiate the valuation. So Sarah offers an ASA with the following terms: a 20% discount, and this means when the ASA is triggered, the angel investor receives 20% off the share price. The long stop date on the ASA is 6 months when it is signed, so this means that it's SEIS, EIS compliant. The qualifying amount is £800,000, and this is the minimum amount that Sarah wants to raise before the ASA is triggered. This amount excludes any amounts raised under the ASA. And the valuation floor is 3.5 million. So let's run through a few scenarios. Scenario 1, Sarah takes £100,000 from the angel investor on an ASA. In 3 months, she raises £850,000 on a £5 million valuation from a VC. The VC round triggers the ASA, and the angel investor's £100,000 converts to equity at a 20% discount to what the VC's paid. So scenario 2, Sarah takes the £100,000 from the angel on an ASA. But within the 6 months, she's not able to raise any more money. The ASA is triggered at the long stop date of 6 months, and the angel's £100,000 converts to equity at the valuation floor of 3.5 million. The investor receives 20% discount on the value of their shares. Scenario 3, Sarah takes £100,000 from the angel investor on an ASA. Within the 6 months, she's able to raise £500,000 at a valuation of 4 million from a VC, and she wants to close the round. However, the £500,000 falls short of the qualifying amount of £800,000 that she stated in her ASA. Jane drafted the ASA so that if she raised a non-qualifying amount, being an amount less than 800k, the ASA could still be triggered with approval from the ASA investors. The ASA investors approve for the ASA to be triggered, and their funds convert to equity at a 20% discount paid by the VCs. So a quick note, as a founder, you want to raise enough funds to give you runway to achieve your milestones. This might be a period of 12 to 24 months. So you want to think carefully about the number you set as your qualifying round on the ASA and what might happen if you don't achieve it. If you raise less than the qualifying amount in the ASA, some founders have set their ASA to trigger when the smaller round is done, and some allow their ASA investors to wait until the long stop date, typically 6 months, for their funds to convert to equity. It's up to what the founders negotiate with their investors. So just a few tips. Some investors may not know what an ASA is, so you may need to explain this, how it works, and also how it can benefit them, particularly the discount. An ASA is a really good tool to get a small bit of investment in and show there's momentum in your raise. So you want to build a plan and communicate with your investors how you're going to do a larger price round so you're well funded for the medium term. Under an ASA, you're giving shares away at a discount, which ultimately means that your investors are getting more shares for their money and your dilution increases. It's worth using an ASA for only a small part of your raise, so maybe about 10%, just to show you can get early funds in and showing momentum on your raise. So one of the benefits of raising on an ASA is that it's relatively quick to draft and be signed by investors. By collecting money on an ASA, it shows to investors you've got people who really believe in your product and your team. It also allows you to defer the valuation of the company and avoid issuing dense investment documentation to a relatively small investor. Importantly, it's SEIS EIS compliant. In the US, startups use safe notes or convertible notes, which may not be compliant. So some of the downsides is that you may need to do a bit of education with investors on how ASAs work. Some investors may be used to investing in startups where they know the valuation and also the number of shares they're getting. Some investors may want to negotiate on some of the terms of the ASA, especially the valuation floor, which may distract from the full fundraise. Raising on an ASA may take extra time and legal costs as it's a legal instrument. And lastly, you still need to take time to understand the terminology under the ASA and also a valuation for your company. What's next and how do you arrange for an ASA? So Seed Legals is a platform that helps startups get their legal needs sorted. They provide a service called Seed Fast, which is a template ASA and support that costs £500. And you'll need a subscription to the platform, which ranges from £29 per month. If you use a solicitor, it might take a few hours to draft and finalise the ASA, so it might cost between £400 to £700. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.